Hey there, I'm JT Detman with Sport Court of Austin. We are out here in Spicewood, Texas, going to be getting started at a brand new pickleball court build. The view is phenomenal. We're gonna show you step by step how we're gonna build this court, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. You might ask me, JT, why can't you just give me a price for my sport court over the phone? But you might go out to your backyard and say, well, my backyard feels flat. My kids play soccer on it. It might look on normal footing, flat. However, when you start to actually get out on some of these sites, the reason we need to see it is because you might have to do a lot of excavation like we do out here. And this excavation and all the retaining wall work, that's gonna cost more. Some things to consider here is running a court lengthwise, so this goes 60 feet down that way. Running a court lengthwise is going to cost you a little bit less than if you ran the court down into this extended hillside. So, on this site that we're at today, we have about 10 feet of fall. And as you can see on this site, where the camera's at way over there, and where I'm at right here is a pretty big amount of fall. So we have some options. I could dig a 10-foot hole all the way down there and move all that dirt out and haul it off to the dump. That is a very costly option. So we have another option, which is our most common scenario, and it's called cut and fill. What that means, it's pretty simple, is you cut in on the high side and you drag that fill that you see right here, you drag that fill back and build it up. What you can see here is we're excavating this side. This is what we consider to be normal type of material that we would excavate out. If we were to hit hard bedrock where this bucket could not easily cut through, and we had to have a jackhammer out to hammer out that bedrock. As a good rule of thumb, rock costs about $1,000 a day of chiseling because it's extremely hard on our machinery and it takes a lot of time. If we walk about 100 yards down this hill, you're gonna start to see really large boulder bedrock outcroppings that would probably require a jackhammer to be able to chisel through. Good news is, where we're digging here, we've got perfect foundation fill and the digging and excavation is going pretty easily. You might be asking yourself, what is this impervious cover thing and does it affect the building of my sport court? The answer is yes, it absolutely affects the building of your sport court and you need to be aware of it. What is impervious cover is it's the amount of ground coverage that you have, natural ground that you have covered on your property that does not allow water to go through. So driveways, your house, your deck, which counts to different rates. All of those things count towards your impervious cover limit, and each city is a little bit different in their regulations of that. Some cities have no impervious cover regulations. Some cities have very tight ones. 45% of your overall square footage of your land can be covered by what's impervious, meaning water does not drain through it. That means that 55% of your property needs to allow water to drain through it. Generally, as a rule of thumb, anything on your survey that says a public utility easement, or you'll see it abbreviated as PUE, or a property line, you absolutely have to stay off of. And then you might see also 10, 15, 20, 25, or even 50-foot building lines that you would also be advised to stay off of, but because this is flat work, you can technically build over those lines. In general, know that this is flat work, and flat work, much like a concrete drive or any other type of low-lying patio, can go over a building line. But we really advise that you abide by any survey lines because it just makes the process simpler. What other restrictions might you have that could affect the positioning of a court or your ability to build a court in your backyard? Well, there's a few of them. One of them would be if you have a critical root zone, which is basically if you have a very large, what's called a heritage tree in certain cities, you might have a protected root zone that you could not dig into like we're digging over here. Generally, the trees that you're gonna wanna look out for are the oaks, the elms, the pecan trees that are a pretty big size. And you can look that up on your city's code. Other things that you want to be aware of are any pool pipes that might be running, any electrical lines or cable lines. One thing to do is call 811, have them come out and mark your site. It's called call before you dig. It's a safety precaution that we would take otherwise to make sure we don't hit a gas line or a utility line of some sort. We've got Tomas wrapping up the excavation. He's made the initial cut of about 4.5 feet. Next, we're gonna be out here in a couple days with our concrete crew. They'll start forming up that downside. They'll bag the wall. They'll be laying some plywood, and eventually they'll be getting ready to pour the concrete for this build. This is gonna be awesome. Stay tuned for the next steps. If you look behind me, you can see we've made a lot of great progress. We've got plastic down, we've got rebar laid, we've got the whole site leveled out, and we've got the form set for concrete to be poured. If you look back in the background, we got a bunch of people down there. It looks like they might be tying rebar. It actually turns out they are removing rebar. So we got out here today and realized that there was some miscommunication on the paperwork, and instead of there being post-tension cables installed, our crews installed rebar. This is one of those examples that happens a lot in contracting where there's some degree of miscommunication. And if you don't have a project manager overseeing your site, this concrete would have been poured tomorrow and it would have been an irreversible change. One of the really interesting features about this court is they're gonna have a masonry retaining wall wrapping this corner. So you're gonna have a seat right here with a block retaining wall coming all the way up to here, and that seat's gonna wrap this corner as well. You have seat for about 15 feet to right here, and that's where this corner bumps back in, and we go to a 6-inch footer the rest of the court. Now, it's really important that we have this footer built into the slab because it's gonna make this retaining wall a lot stronger. Then also, when we build this footer and have this retaining wall, we've gotta have extra space behind it so we can put drainage. If you don't have drainage, you're gonna have a lot of problems in the future with your retaining wall. On this end of the court, where it's our low side of the court, so we've built it up with all the dirt that we cut on the high side, this is where we have what's called a turn down beam. So what that consists of is it consists of a big wall made of sandbags that have been stacked up to the top, compacted really well to create this bag wall that if you look all the way down into the wall here is just filled up with sandbags. So these have all been hand packed and filled and stacked all the way to the top. Ultimately, what you're gonna have is you're going to have a rebar enforced, which you see this is real, it's tied into the wall, it's nice and sturdy. It's a rebar enforced turn down beam that's 8 inches wide that's going to hold back all of the dirt and the bags on this side of the court. So when we remove these forms after concrete's poured, you'll see concrete that ties down into the exposed wall. If we're below 4 feet, it's relatively not that much reinforcement that has to be done. And the cost is gonna be somewhere close to about $10 a square foot. Now, what we have here, I'm about 6'3" or so. This is about the height of me, right? This wall is over 4 feet tall. When we go over 4 feet tall, we have to add more concrete in thickness, usually about to 12 inches. And we're gonna have to add a lot more bracing. All of that means a lot more labor, a lot more, this is loose, a lot more lumber and a lot more material costs. And because we're doing a thicker beam, we're gonna have more rebar and we're gonna have more concrete in it. Now, this type of beam is gonna cost you pretty close to $25, maybe even all the way up to $30 a square foot, depending on how steep the slope is. Turn down beam is costly, but it's usually a lot cheaper than a retaining wall is. If you do not add the proper amount of bracing to a concrete structure, when you pour the concrete on this, you're liable for this whole wall to have what's called a blowout, where actual concrete will just break the boards and it'll spill all down the side. Now, what we've done here is because we have a 6-foot wall, we have bracing every 3 feet in height. So we have one right here at the bottom, one about 3 feet up, and one up at the top at 6 feet. This is really important to both hold the middle so you don't get any bulging out the side, and also to hold the top. And then we're tying in this bottom board with stakes every 2 feet to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, because ultimately this board is what holds both of our braces in. So if this board were to give way, were to slide, were to break, something like that, then all of our braces would collapse and this up bracing would be basically worthless. That's why we do pre-pour inspections to make sure everything on the spec sheet is right. A week and a half later, we're out here. We've got the cable company has come and installed the post-tension cables. We've got all of the plastic down. This is the difference right here between what we were going to have in there. This is a stagnant piece of rebar and all of these really heavy duty 1/2-inch cables. We have what's called the dead man side. So right here in the corner, you've got nothing exiting out of the slab. You have these anchor plates right here that are going to have concrete encased all the way around them. And then what's gonna happen after this concrete is all poured, you've got dead man sides right here, and you've got dead man sides over that way. And what's gonna happen is the cable is gonna get pulled in both directions. So all the cables are gonna get pulled that way, and all the cables are gonna get pulled that way. And what happens when these cables get pulled is you're basically squeezing the slab together. All concrete cracks. Every single piece of concrete that's ever been poured in history has cracked. If anyone tells you that it doesn't crack, they probably haven't been pouring concrete for a while. The key to post-tension cabling is minimizing those shrinkage cracks. Now, it's really important when you pour a post-tension cabled slab that you don't do any cutting, coring, or drilling after the cables are tensioned. And the reason is, whenever these cables have 3,000 PSI of force on them, they are extremely tight. You know, it's not loose like it is now. They'll be extremely tight, and if you cut a hole or drill a hole or core a hole and hit one of these cables, you can injure whoever's doing the work or cause the slab to fail altogether. These cables can pop out of the top of the slab with the force. They can shoot out the side and damage property or people around. So you need to be really careful that you, one, know that you have a post-tension slab, and if you do need to add something after the fact, hire a professional who has a device that can mark and locate these cables. When we have a painted surface, a painted pickleball court surface, you want to do whatever you can to minimize shrinkage cracks, and that is exactly why we have post-tension cables in this slab. It's the day of the concrete pour. Things are going really well. We've got about a little over half of the job poured out. But what they're doing here, making sure there's no low spots, there's no high spots, so you get a good consistent ball bounce. You don't have water pooling in places. And then right here with the trowel, what he's doing, pulling all this back, is what's allowing the concrete and the water to set up and that rock to sit down. So that's what makes a really nice smooth finish. After that, they're gonna let it dry for a little bit. They'll come back on it with a broom, and then they'll broom out the grooves so that it's got some traction that can hold the acrylic surfacing we're gonna put on it. Here's what we do with our fencing. We set everything in PVC sleeves. That makes our fencing removable ultimately, but also very easy to modify and very easy to install. So right here, it's very important. We've got a straight line of PVC sleeves. These will be cut down whenever they come to install the fencing. Be cut down, the pipe will be slid in, and then they'll run the fencing down this direction. Because we're gonna have a painted surface on top of this adhering to the court, we have a light broom finish, which you can see these little bitty grooves going down the concrete in the direction of the slope to help water drainage is extremely important. Then you look on this last 6 inches and you might go, what in the world did they do there? Well, this is actually a scoring that we do. It's not anything scientific, but this is going to be where they have a 6-inch masonry stone retaining wall. And so this scoring allows that stone to adhere to the concrete really well. And we've incorporated the footing of the retaining wall into the court, which is gonna make the retaining wall extremely strong and be able to withstand just about anything. Just wrapped up the concrete pour today. Everything went really well. Our guys did a great job. The finish is awesome. Next, we'll be back out here. The retaining wall will be going in. Court components like the basketball goal, the fencing, the lighting will all go up, and then that'll get us ready for the last step of the process, which is painting the court, putting a nice finish on it, and making it look awesome. Keep posted, come watch our next videos, and we'll show you the rest of this awesome pickleball court build.